spend a lot of our time making sure that New Mexico has healthy land, healthy water, and healthy wildlife, okay? And that's a little bit difficult right now because we are stuck inside, keeping ourselves safe from the coronavirus, but we are doing our best to make sure that all of the kids in New Mexico are still having the ability to have meaningful connections with nature, and that is why we are here, okay? Nature is still outside, and it's still available to you, and we want you to connect with it, okay? So, let's see, go on to the next page. All right, so I know I've repeated myself a million times already, but I'm gonna do it one more time, okay? So everybody is muted, all right? I can't hear you, you can only hear me. If you need me, you can raise your hand, not on the picture because I probably won't see it, but on the raise your hand function on Zoom, okay? Or you can use the chat box, and that's how we're gonna manage this class today to make sure that everybody's ideas get heard and everybody's information gets shared, okay? So we are going to talk about the moon today. We're gonna talk about the phases of the moon, all right? So as we're starting, I just want to ask everybody, have you stopped and looked at the moon recently? Is there anything that you've seen as you looked at the moon? And you can share on your chat function, what have you seen as you looked at the moon recently? I know our kids have been going outside and we've been checking out the moon as we're getting ready for this class, and we've seen some really cool information as we were glancing at the moon. But one question I wanted to ask you is there really man in the moon? Because I know we all like to say that, right? We always like to say, do you see the man in the moon? And I kind of see it, right? You see the two little eyes, the nose, the mouth. Yeah, so some of you are sharing you've seen craters. Some of you drew the big moon that was happening last night. Awesome. Okay. Jet and Alaya always see a dog, which I love. That's awesome. That's very creative. Okay. But a lot of times people like to say that they see a man in the moon. Okay. And although we may see this man in the moon, does anyone know what it actually is? Why we see this man in the moon? I'm going to give you a second to respond. Why do we see these pictures, whether it be a dog or whether it be a man? Okay, a big crater. That's a really good guess. Does anybody else have a guess? Craters, yep. I'm seeing shadows. Oh, that's a really good guess too. Okay, we have shadows and we have craters. Anybody else want to share a guess? I'm gonna share. I actually didn't know this until gases. Okay, that's another good guess. I didn't know this until I was doing some research on the moon to teach you guys this class, because we are forever learning even as adults. Mountains, very good guesses. Okay, so the man in the moon is made up of various lunar maria, okay? And lunar maria actually means sea, like the ocean, okay? Because a long time ago, astronomers believed that there were bodies of water on the moon. So they thought that the dark spots on the moon were actually bodies of water, big seas, like a big ocean on the moon, okay? And so we have found out recently, more recently than not, that, well, actually, let me leave it up to you guys. Answer me. Is there water on the moon? So astronomers a long time ago thought that these big dark spots that we see are oceans, are seas, vast maria is what they like to call them. So my question to you is there water on the moon? Oh, I see some head shakings. I see some head shakings. I see no, ma'am. Okay. Nope. Right? I'm getting a lot of no's. You are 100% correct. There is no water on the moon. So although we call these spots lunar marias, which means lunar seas, there is actually no water on the moon. It was guesses from astronomers long ago that they thought that these big dark spots were spots made from the oceans on the moon. So we're going to do a little chat then about what does make up the moon. Like, what are we seeing when we look at the moon? And some of your guesses that you just shared a little bit ago are guesses that I see on this PowerPoint. You guys will see it too. We had guesses for mountain ranges. Absolutely. Do you see the big dark white spots? across the bottom, those are our mountain ranges, okay? We have Maria, which we know now is just low, flat areas. There is no water, okay? Even though the name still says sea, there is no water. We have spaces where there's no atmosphere. And then we have a lot of people were guessing left and right about craters, right? Impact craters. And there are tons of craters on the moon. And I'm assuming you guys probably know, but does everybody know why we have craters on the moon? What causes craters on the moon? Ooh, James, you're very right. At the poles, there is ice. You are very correct. I wasn't going to get that far deep into this information, but you are correct. What causes the craters? Asteroids and meteors, meteor impacts. You guys are just too smart today. You're absolutely too smart. So as we look at this picture, you can see all of the craters that are all over the moon, and that is meteor impacts, okay? Christina is raising her hand. Christina, if you have something you want to share with us, Christina Ortega, you can put it in the chat box so that I can answer your question for you, okay? But you guys are 100% correct. You have meteor impacts and you have asteroids, okay? So as we move on, does anyone know the distance to the moon? And of course, I have it right there for you, so you don't even have to guess. But I am gonna have you guess something, okay? So, if you had to drive across our state, New Mexico, okay? If you had to drive across our state, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, how many times do you think that you would drive across New Mexico to equal the distance of driving to the moon, which we all know we can't drive to the moon, okay? I'm not saying we can drive to the moon. We know we can't do that. But how many times, I want you to guess, how many times you would have to drive back and forth across New Mexico to equal the distance, 238,857 miles to the moon. Okay, over 1 million times. Cohen and Ryan, those are my kids. They wrote like so many zeros. That's a lot of times. Aspen says 55 times, 2,010 times. That's a good guess. 6,800, 180. We've got guesses all over the spectrum, okay? How many miles or how many times would we have to drive across New Mexico? 600, that's a pretty good guess, Cassidy. 105, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys. Are you ready? Let's see who was closest. 696 times. So you would have to drive here, there, here, there, here, there, here, there, here, there, 696 times. Could you imagine? That would be the most boring drive ever, right? But if you could drive to the moon, if you did it 696 times, you could get all the way to the moon, which would be pretty amazing, right? Pretty cool. Okay. So did you know that the moon orbits the Earth? Okay, these are all quick little facts that I'm going to share with you guys as we start talking about moon phases. We just got to understand the moon a little bit more before we get to the phases. But the moon orbits the Earth. It goes around the Earth, okay? We all know that. We know that the Earth then is spinning, okay, as the moon is going around it. And then it's also going around the sun. We've got a lot of movement going on here, okay? How many days? Ready? How many days does it take for the moon to orbit the Earth? Go ahead, use that chat box. How many days does it take? And no Googling. Just because we're in a live classroom doesn't mean you guys can go Google this information, okay? Good guesses, 24, a year, 80, 20, 30, 32. All right, you guys have 365. That's how many days are in a year. Okay, let's see if we're right. 1 month, 28 days. You guys are doing pretty good. We're getting really close. Really close. I've seen the right answer quite a few times. It doesn't count that my kids keep giving the right answer because they've seen this presentation. So I think they should stop answering the questions. So let's see, about 27 days. I did see a lot of people answering that. So it takes 27 days for the moon to go all the way around the earth. So when we talk about our phases, from the first phase till we follow the moon all the way around again, it's 27.3 days, okay? So that's kind of a long time to have a moon go through its full entire cycle, right? Yeah, it's pretty interesting to me. Okay, we're gonna move on. We are gonna talk about the fact that we all like to go outside and we like to say, oh, the moon is shining so bright and the moonlight was so bright, but really, is the moon really actually bright? Because what's actually causing the moon to shine? So the moon shines because its surface reflects the light from the sun. And the fact that sometimes it shines very, very bright, right? We think, wow, the moon is so bright tonight. Can you imagine that the moon is only reflecting 3 to 12% of the sunlight coming off of the sun? So we see the moon as this very, 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 very bright object in the sky. And it's actually only reflecting anywhere from 3 to 12% off the sun. Could you imagine how bright it would be if it was reflecting more? It would be like we would have a second sun. It would never be dark at night. That would be pretty crazy. And I know some of you said that you've been watching the moon. You went out yesterday and you were looking at the moon, and the moon is really big right now, which we're going to talk about. And when the moon is really big, the moon it's brighter. It gives us more light. And so I was up last night, just give you guys a little bit of insight into my life. We have 5 dogs and they're crazy. Okay, dogs, I think all dogs are crazy. I love them, but they're crazy sometimes. Oh, I see a moon picture down there. Thank you for sharing with us. And I was up at 2 o'clock this morning to go let one of our dogs outside. And I looked outside, and if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that the sun was rising because it was so bright outside. It didn't even look like it was nighttime. And sometimes when we have a full moon, that it really makes our skies at night super, super bright because there's more light being reflected so that we can see, okay? I'm so glad too. I love that James wrote, he's glad that the sun or the moon only reflects 3 to 12% of the sun, because could you imagine your eyes would be super sad at nighttime? It would never get dark, right? Okay, so we are gonna move on. I think this is an easy question. I think most of you know the answer to this question, and I would be shocked if we didn't get all the right answers on this one, right? Which has less gravity? I can already see them coming through. The moon or the earth? Okay. I just saw somebody, Christina, maybe you can scroll up and ask a question for someone who's having some Zoom questions. I want to make sure that everybody can hear us. Maybe we can help get them connected so they can hear, okay? Moon. Everybody is 100% correct. So the moon has less gravity than our Earth, okay? We all know that. That's fantastic. But here's some crazy information, okay? So the gravity on the moon is only about 17% what it is here on the Earth, okay? So what does that mean? Let's just say, and I should have used a different weight, so maybe more relative on what you guys actually weigh, but imagine if you weighed 200 pounds on Earth, okay? If you weighed 200 pounds and I weigh about 140 pounds, okay? That gives you a little bit of perspective. So if you weigh 200 pounds on the Earth, that means you only weigh 34 pounds on the moon. Mind blown. That's kind of crazy, right? Because we have such small amount of gravity on the moon, our weight is completely different on the moon, okay? Yes, click join audio. Sorry, I see someone struggling with their audio for Zoom. Yes, click join audio and you should be able to hear me. I can't hear everybody else because you guys are muted, but you should be able to hear me. Okay. Another quick fact about the moon. First person to set foot on the moon. Who can tell me? It doesn't have to be spelled right. Okay, you can spell it just the best of your abilities. Put it in the chat box. Neil Armstrong. I swear, I'm not even teaching you guys anything today. You know everything already. Maybe you guys should be teaching this class. I should unmute everybody and let everybody else teach the class. Neil Armstrong, you guys are so smart. So smart. Okay, you got it. Neil Armstrong. You even spelt it right. Some of you, most of you spelt it right. I'm gonna assume that you guys didn't Google that information either, right? Okay, now here's a trickier question. Ready? Does anyone know what year Neil Armstrong walked on the moon? Okay, all right. I thought everybody was going to start answering the correct answers again. What is happening? You guys are way too smart. So we have 1969, 1828, 19 something. I'm going to let a couple more people guess before I tell you. That's okay. You don't have to know. That's good. That makes me feel better. At least I'm teaching you something today. 50 years ago, 1200, 1968. All right. Some good guesses. Good guesses I'm going to share with you now. Are we ready? Let's see who was right. July 20th, 1969. So Apollo 11 was the space flight that first landed humans on the moon. Commander Neil Armstrong and lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin formed the American crew that landed the Apollo lunar module Eagle on July 20th, 1969. Okay, so that's a long time ago. I can't even imagine. As I sit here sometimes and I look at the moon, can you imagine going to the moon and what that would be like? I think it would be pretty crazy to walk on the moon and see what the lack of gravity feels like, and to see what a whole different space looks like. I mean, I think it would just be so fun. It would be amazing. It'd be a really, really neat experience. And these guys are pretty lucky to have had that experience. Okay, here we are. We've finally made it. We are going to, it's a long trip. Yes, it is a very long trip as I'm looking at some of your chats. Okay. It is mind-blowing. I agree. All right, are we ready to talk about the phases of the moon now? Is everybody ready? Yes. All right. Party time. Get to the class. All right, phases of the moon. So we're going to talk about 4 main phases of the moon, but there are actually 8 phases. And the way that this class is going, I am going to guess that some of you will probably know more than the 4 main phases, and some of you will probably know all of these phases, and you'll be able to teach my class for me. Okay, I know it. I can see what's happening already. You guys are just, I see you down there shaking your head. No, I can see you. Yes. I know you. Yes, you. I'm talking to you, Jet. You. I know you know all the answers. Okay. Okay. So we are going to go over some of the phases, and we're going to go over some of the basic phases first, and then we'll add in the more complicated ones. Okay. All right. Here's the 4 we're going to talk about. Pretty simple, right? Nothing crazy. We're going to start with the new moon, and we'll go around to the first quarter, the full moon, and then the third quarter. Super easy, okay? We're not going to get anything too crazy today. So if we were looking, here you are. You see, you're spinning on the earth. How'd you do that? That's pretty crazy. Okay, so if you were standing right there on the earth and you were looking at this moon, you see your moon, right? What kind of a moon do you think that you would be looking at? Okay, we just briefly talked about our four that we're going to learn about: the new moon, the first quarter, the full moon, and the third quarter. Okay, what do you think you'd be looking at in this space? The dark side, the new moon. Okay, new, full moon. The dark side. So what would the dark side mean? I mean, if we're going to put it as to one of the four that we just talked about, the new moon, the first quarter, the full moon, or the third quarter, what does the dark side mean? Tell me which one of those four we're looking at. Okay. So you guys got it. If we were standing right here, okay, we would look over at this moon and we would see the dark side. And the dark side would mean the new moon. Okay, where did it go? Like when there's a new moon, you don't hardly see anything. Okay, it's very, very, very hard to see the new moon from the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, and that's because when the new moon cannot normally be seen from the Earth, since only the dark side of the moon faces our planet at this point. So you guys are all saying the dark side. It is the dark side, which is also called the new moon. And we can't often see it because it's dark. So, I mean, that's a pretty simple explanation, right? There's nothing crazy about that. So as we move, all right, oh, look, there you are again. Crazy how that happened. You just dropped right there on the Earth. If we were standing here and we were looking at this new phase, what are we gonna see? I can see Heather put that tonight is a pink moon. We are going to talk about that today. We are going to talk about that. So we're gonna see a half. So what do we call that? What do we call it? We had our four main. We had our new moon, our first quarter, our full moon, and our third quarter. A little dark, a little light. That's exactly what we'll see. You're right. And this is our first quarter. And that's pretty much what you would see on a first quarter. Okay, this is what it would look like. This is one of my favorite moons. I'm not sure why. Like, I totally love to look at the moon when it looks like this. I love a full moon and it's amazing, but I think there's something special about only seeing half of the moon and just kind of imagining the other half and where it is because your eyes can't see it. So I think it's kind of interesting to me. Okay. Now we've made halfway around the Earth, right? What are we looking at now? What kind of a moon are we looking at now? I don't see as many people guessing. Maybe you guys just know everything. Oh, pink, full moon, full moon, full moon. Absolutely. And we know tonight, here we are again, right? It's a full moon. And we're gonna talk a little bit later. I see everybody in the chat talking about tonight is a full moon. Well, tonight is also a super moon, which we'll talk about here in just a second. It's also a pink moon. So it's kind of interesting. And that's kind of why we chose to do the moon class today, because we thought it was pretty cool that we have not only a super moon, a full moon, and a pink moon, okay? So this one is really simple. Here we are on the other side of the moon. I'm not going to have you guys guess because I'm pretty sure you know. We're now looking at the third quarter or the last quarter, okay? And then as we come full circle again, we're now back at, we should know, the new moon. So we've made that full 27.3 day circle around the moon or around the Earth. We'll talk about the supermoon, I promise. I promise I'm going to explain to you what the supermoon is, and I'm going to explain to you what the pink moon is in just a little bit, okay? So we did our four, right? You can see them on the left side of the screen. Our new moon, our first quarter, our full moon, and our third quarter. Now, if we look over to the right side, we see four more names, okay? And these are, it went the wrong way. Sorry, guys. Look, I made a mistake. Sorry. So you'll see in between the new moon and the first quarter is a moon where it's starting to peek out just a little bit, right? And that's our waxing crescent moon. So you see it looks like a little crescent. It looks like a banana, right? We all see that one. And then in between our first quarter and our full moon is our waxing gibbous. Okay, so it's a little bit more. We're getting closer and closer to that full moon. Okay, and then as we are getting down between the full moon and the last quarter, we have a waning gibbous. Okay, so now we're starting to disappear. We got to our full moon and now it's starting to get a little bit smaller. Okay, and then between our last quarter and our new moon, we have a waning crescent. So we see the crescent again, but instead of coming into a moon, it's coming out of a moon. Okay, Jet, you guys are funny. Okay, you guys, I don't know if everybody is watching these two on our chat, if you're using your video, but they are dancing for us in the middle of class. I appreciate your dancing. It's making me happy and it's making me feel really confident in teaching this class. So keep on dancing, guys. Keep on dancing. Okay, so these are our full 8. Did anyone know those before we talked about them today? All 8 cycles of the moon? No. I'll tell you the truth. I didn't even know the name of all of them until I sat down to make this for you guys, okay? So I think we're gonna be real honest that there's some new cool information. And I think what's really neat is we have our full moon tonight. So in a couple days, it's not circled on this picture, but in a couple days, which one is the first one that we're gonna experience after the full moon? What is it called? It's written up on our PowerPoint so you guys can look at it, but try to remember which one we're talking about. We're talking about between the full moon and the last quarter. Does anyone remember what name that would be? So we have our full moon tonight, and in a couple days, as it starts to slowly move towards that new moon, what is the first phase that we're gonna go through? Very good, a waning gibbous. That's actually gonna be our first phase that we go through. Very good, guys. And then we'll move towards that last quarter, right? And then we'll move towards the waning crescent. And then we'll get all the way back to the new moon, okay? All right, so we are going to watch a quick little video. It's a 3-minute video. And it's the best one that I could find on YouTube that really gave some good explanations to what a supermoon is as well, okay? So I'm gonna play it for you guys, all right? Oh, no, it didn't play. Let's see. There we go. Is it playing?
I'm Kane, the publisher of Universe Today.
Can you guys hear it?
Everyone knows that the moon goes through phases, but let's talk about why it does. It comes down to illumination, which in this case all originates from our nearby star. Our moon orbits around our planet, and this Earth-Moon system orbits around the sun. Even though we only see light on part of the moon, from the perspective of the sun, half of it is always illuminated. Stuck here on Earth, we see the moon in various phases of illumination as it completes a 28-day orbit around the Earth. As the moon travels around us, we see it pass through its phases. It goes from new moon to full moon and back to new moon again. Crescent moons are when it's less than half illuminated, and gibbous when it's more than half. Waxing means that the moon becomes more illuminated night by night, and the term waning means that it's getting less illuminated each night. If you ever get a chance to travel to the other hemisphere, you'll immediately notice how unfamiliar the moon behaves. It's upside down. If you live in the northern hemisphere, after a new moon, the crescent begins on the right side. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's reversed, with the illumination starting on the left side. Weird. The alignment of the sun, earth, and moon can lead to some fantastic astronomical events. One event occurs when the moon is full and it passes through the Earth's shadow. Or, as you probably know, it's a lunar eclipse. This causes the moon to grow dark and then turn an eerie red color. When the moon is new, it can pass in between the Earth and the sun, casting its shadow down on our planet. As you know, a solar eclipse. You'd think that we would see a solar and lunar eclipse every month, but we don't, because the moon's orbit is inclined relative to the sun. Most months, the moon is either above or below the sun in the sky, so they just don't line up perfectly. One more thing. You might not know that Venus also goes through phases. When the planet is on the other side of the sun from us, we see it as a nearly complete disk. But when Venus is on our side, just about to pass into the glow of the sun, it's a thin crescent, just like how we see the moon. Hope this gives you a better understanding of why the moon goes through its phases every month and the interesting relationship between the Earth, the sun, and the moon.
Okay, pretty good video, right? He does a really great job at explaining all the different phases of the moon, and probably even better than I can, because it sounds like that's probably what he's studied, okay? So I know everyone was saying it, everyone's excited to learn about it. Tonight, and I expect that you guys are gonna go out and look after we've talked all this information about the moon. Tonight is a supermoon and a pink moon, okay? So a supermoon occurs when the moon is especially close to the Earth while it's full. The moon's closeness to the Earth naturally makes it look extra close and extra bright, up to 14% bigger and 30% brighter than a full moon at its furthest point, okay? So tonight, not only is it a full moon, but because of the way the moon rotates, right now it happens to be that much closer to the Earth. And so it all looks so much bigger and brighter for us. So it's going to be really cool. So those of you with a telescope, I am totally jealous. I think you are going to see a really awesome sight tonight as you go out and look at the moon, okay? Now, I'm hesitant whether or not I want to ask you guys, because you guys are so smart, because I feel like you are going to tell the answer to this, and I'm not even going to get to share with you. Does anyone know why it's called a pink moon? Now, this is what I want you to do. But wait, don't type it, don't type it, don't type it. Don't type it. Wait. Okay. If you know why it's called a pink moon, I want you to raise your hand on the Zoom if you know how. Otherwise, just type, I know why. And I'm going to unmute you. And I'm going to have you, tell the group why it's called maybe I'm going to, let's see, I can't figure out how to unmute you. I should know how, hold on. I'm gonna have you tell the group. So hold on really quick, okay? So let's see. I have 2 people with their hands raised. I don't actually know everybody's names, so I'm gonna go with the first one that I have, and your name on Zoom is P Stash, okay? So I'm gonna unmute you, and if you know what it is, then I want you to share with everybody. Can you tell us why it's called a pink moon?
Because it looks kind of pinkish.
Oh, that is a very good guess. Thank you for sharing that with us, okay? I'm gonna see what other guesses are, okay? I'm gonna mute you again. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if your name is Tyler on Zoom, then I'm going to unmute you, okay, Tyler? And I want you to share with us why you think it's called a pink moon.
Because it kind of looks like it's reddish and pink.
It kind of looks like it's reddish and pink. Again, a very good guess, okay? I'm gonna try one more. Who else? How about Iris? Iris, I'm gonna unmute you, okay? And I want you to share with the group why you think it's called a pink moon. Oh, hold on. Oh, no, I can't, because you're not using your microphone, so I can't unmute you. Let's see. Anybody else have a guess? Anybody else want to raise their hand? Oh, Iris, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Because the sun sets on the moon.
Because the sun sets on the moon. That is also a very good guess. Not correct. So I'm gonna move on, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys why it's called a pink moon, all right? Let me fix this off of my screen so I can see again. Okay, here's our pink moon. Here it is rising up into the sky, right? Now, why do we call it a pink moon? So the pink moon comes from one of the very first spring flowers called the wild ground phlox. It's also known as a moss phlox, okay? And so long ago, when our Native Americans here in the United States or in America saw the first moon in April, they knew it was a pink moon because it's when these wild ground phlox were starting to bloom all over the ground. So it actually has nothing to do with the color of the moon. The moon is actually going to be the same color. It's not going to be pink. They call it the pink moon because they know that it's time to start planting their crops when the pink flowers are out and the first full moon comes up. So long ago, instead of following a calendar like we do with 12 months, they followed the lunar calendar, and they followed the moon and the signs of the moon to tell them when to do things in their society. And so by judging the fact that the pink flowers are out and the first moon came up, the first full moon for spring, they knew it was time to plant their crops. So we still call it a pink moon. You could also be called a sprouting grass moon, a fish moon, a hare moon, all of these different names. And it can also just be simply called a May full moon, which is kind of confusing because it's actually in April, but it's our very first spring full moon. So now you know it's not actually because of the color. It's actually telling us to get ready to plant in our gardens, okay, which I'm very excited about. Next week, we have a class all about growing plants. And so we will be sharing some information about how not only to do a little bit of gardening to go along with our spring flowers and our pink moon, but kind of getting you guys encouraged to grow your own food and provide healthy foods for your family, okay? So we know what the pink moon is now, kind of exciting. I'm happy that you guys didn't actually know, and it's something that I can share with you. So here we have our moon journal, okay? So what I'm going to do is we have this saved on our Google Drive, and I'm gonna share it with everybody, and I'm gonna share it with everybody in this group chat before our Zoom class is done. And then I'm also going to put it on the Nature Ninos Facebook page, okay? So be sure to hop on over to the Nature Ninos Facebook page and get your moon journal so that you can keep track of the moon. So this allows you to not only draw what you see, but write some notes. Make sure you write your date so you know when you drew it. Write some notes. What did the moon look like? What was the atmosphere outside when the moon looked like that? Did you see anything in the moon? Did you see a dog in the moon? Did you see a rabbit in the moon? Did you see a man in the moon? Okay, we want to know everything about your moon experience, okay? And that allows you to track it for the rest of the week, okay? Then, if you guys want, you can come back on Friday at 11 o'clock. It won't be muted. We'll do it a little bit different, more of like the raise your hand and share like we did towards the end here. And you can kind of share with us what you saw and what you experienced about the moon, okay? And I'd love to see everybody back. And if you have friends, have them join as well. Make sure they register on our Nature Ninos Facebook page or send me an email at sarah@nmwildlife.org and I can get them registered for our classes as well, okay? Next week, I think some of you are also signed up for a few of our classes that are happening in the weeks to come. And next week, we're doing kitchen scrap gardening, okay? So we're gonna teach you how to grow a garden and grow some food, even if you don't have a backyard to grow it in. Okay, so we're gonna use some of the foods that are listed on the screen right now. And so between now and next week, if you're gonna join us next week, if you have any of these foods, be sure that you're saving the scraps of them so that we can use them for our kitchen scrap gardening class next week. And I'll be posting more information on our Facebook page about that as well, okay? So that is all we have for today. I have a really cool ending for you guys. I need everybody to pay attention because you have just been mooned, okay? So I hope you guys had fun today. If you have any questions, I'll be here for just a couple of minutes and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. And we hope to see you back next week, okay? I hope you guys had a good time. We'll see you later. Okay, have fun, get outside, look at the moon, enjoy the sunshine. I know you guys have to stay safe and healthy, but make sure that you're getting connected to nature and spending some time in the fresh air as well, okay? All right, you guys have a great day, okay? Be sure to hop on over to our Facebook page and get your moon journal, okay, so that you can print it and follow it for the week. All right, bye guys. Have a great day.